Blair, how's it going, buddy?
Doing well. Thank you for asking. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. And I thank you for being here because, as you know, a lot of people don't know this, is that you were one of the first people in my circle when I was experiencing debilitating depression, paralyzed anxiety, major suicidal ideation, chronic insomnia, and PTSD. It all hit me at one time. And I was in Colorado, and I'll give a little backstory here. And I went to the frozen yogurt shop with my boy, Cash. At the time, he was, God, I don't know what, 6. And you had a card on the cork board, the bulletin board at the yogurt shop, and it drew. I was drawn to that card. Like, oh shit, I gotta call this guy because I'm not kidding. Everybody who follows me, you know how bad it was. And this man here was the first person I actually reached out to outside of my family and shared my story with. And Blair is a life coach, and Blair stepped in and said, let's talk about this. And you and I went for a walk a couple of days later. So come on in and tell people what you're doing.
Since then, I have been focusing on teaching and guiding classes in self-compassion. Individual clients and classes on self-compassion. I don't remember when it was that we met, Brett. 2020 maybe?
2020.
Yeah. In late 2020, a school here in Denver called Contemplative Outreach reached out to me and asked me if I would teach a class on self-compassion at their organization. And I thought, well, I have a class I developed called Creating Self-Compassion that I'd been teaching for, several years. And so I said, yeah, sure. Why not? And so, we signed up, we did it, we set everything up. And now I've taught it 2 or 3 times a year, every year. And we've never had less than 31 people enrolled in the class.
It's all online.
Yeah, it's all online. It's a 6-week class, 6 hour and a half in a session, once a week. And the fewest I've had is 31 people. The most I've had is 48. And that has then kind of developed into, I decided, let's start expanding this on my own. Let's start offering it privately. There's obviously a market for this. Let's see what we can do.
Okay. And go ahead. And that's my next question is who is your clientele? That's what I want to figure out.
The majority of my clientele, you and I would be the youngest people in the class.
Okay.
The majority of my clientele are 60 years old and older.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them retired. And they are willing to take the time to do the self-work necessary to work with the dark thoughts their mind has that leads them to lots of suffering. That's probably a word that I should probably define that. Suffering is mentally induced discomfort.
Right.
Pain is physically induced. You hit your head on something, it hurts. It's pain. Right. Physical induced discomfort. Suffering is thought, mental induced. And my clients and my students are people that struggle, as most humans do, with thoughts that torture them.
Okay.
And
hold on one second.
Want to learn ways to manage it.
Right. Okay. That's a good point for me to ask this question because I've heard you while you're speaking, I'm thinking, and I heard this before, is that pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice.
Yeah.
You heard that?
Pain is necessary. Yes. Yeah. It's a Buddhist saying. Pain is necessary. Suffering is optional.
Optional. Right. So they're coming to you not realizing that their suffering is an unconscious choice?
Yeah, unless it's chronically induced. There is physical components that does cause mental suffering. Certain chemicals, have reactions as we are just biomechanicals.
Mhm.
So certain chemicals can have effects on us. The majority of the time, it's mentally induced. It's distorted thinking.
Right?
It's not recognizing reality for what it is. It's rather fighting or resisting reality that they don't want.
Why did you get involved with this? I know you and you and I had this talk before. You actually experienced some depression yourself. I mean, this is what you and I talked a lot about, and me hearing your story, as bad as this sounds, you gave me comfort in knowing that you went through some depression yourself. As a matter of fact, you flat out told me you took out a life insurance policy because you're gonna contemplating driving your car off a cliff at one point in your lifetime, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I suffered through 14 months of depression, before I sought help. 14 months of darkness, and to me, depression was black, kinda like your shirt.
Yeah.
Even the brightest sunny day was pitch black, and that just kind of enveloped my world for 14 months. And like you said, I even I had worked in a law firm when I was in college, so I understood I had to make sure it looks like an accident. And so I had chosen the mountain and how I was gonna do it so it looked like an accident so my wife and kids, would get the money because I just didn't wanna go forward. It
Yeah,
was too much.
you told me that story. We're taking a walk around, I think it's called Chatfield Lake or what was it Chatfield Lake over there? Is that right?
Uh,
Lake something, but
Clement, Clement Park over in
okay,
Chatfield. Yeah.
right, in Chat okay, so in Colorado, dead of winter, here I am, suffering from major depression, suicidal ideation, all of it, and you flat out told me your story. And I'm like, "Okay, this guy understands my language," because up until that point, I can honestly say this, nobody I spoken to understood me like you did at that point in my life. And that's why I invited you here today to share your story because you didn't go through with it. You and I survived something that could have taken us out. And my followers understand why and how I got through it, but share with us why you didn't decide to go through with that plan and take yourself out of life.
When I was, to use a psychological term, ideating, when I was thinking about it and planning my suicide, driving off the cliff, so to speak, um, I told my wife that night. She'd known something was wrong.
Mhm.
She'd known the world was black. And that night I told her, I said, listen, I've got some really dark thoughts going on. And if something doesn't change in the next 14 days, you need to get me help. That was obviously really unkind of me to heap that on her. It's not like my life is her responsibility. However, depression, it was just suffering, all that is distorted thinking. And I couldn't think straight. And the one thing I did know is that I was going to do something stupid if I didn't get help. And so I told her that. And ironically, 13 days later, it was in late March. Anybody who's been to Colorado knows that Colorado in late March is the 7 shades of brown with snow occasionally. Nothing is growing, nothing is green. There was 2 things that gave me some relief from the depression. One of them was walking, and the other one was riding on my tractor mower, mowing my fields. And so in March, I'm mowing the dead weeds. And it's not mowing, of course. However, it's massive amounts of dust. I'm just a dust storm going in circles around my acre.
Right.
And I was on the far side of my field and I saw this black car pull up and stop on my driveway. And I recognized it as one of my clients. He was one of the book publishers that I worked for. And he jumped out and he's got a bag in his hand from a local bookstore. And, so I shut off the mower and kind of dust off because, I'm covered in dust. Walk over, hi, Jim. And he said, I was going up to see my mom in Louisville and I knew it'd be passing through Broomfield. And something just told me I need you to give you this book. So I just stopped and I bought it. Here you go. Bye. And he got in my car and he left. He got in his car and he left.
And he had no idea. He had no idea what you're going through. Zero.
He had no idea. He just handed it.
Goosebumps.
And so I didn't even look at the book. I just walked up and threw it on, the table on our back patio under the covering. I went back and I mowed the dust. And so an hour and a half later, I finished mowing and now, I'm caked in this stuff. And I go up there and I sit in the back patio and I drop the book out, and the book is called Awareness. And it's by Anthony DeMello. And I recognize that name just as a spiritual teacher I'd heard about.
Mm-hmm.
I was unfamiliar with all his material. Just knew the name. And I opened it up and it might even be on the first page or it's on the first 1 or 2 or 3 pages. Anthony says, face it, people, you don't want happiness. You just want relief from the pain. And that about knocked me over. I felt like he was talking to me. And
yeah,
go ahead.
I was going to say, how do you explain that?
I think there is an essence that binds everything in the universe together. Everything in the universe is made of the same material. Everything on Earth, as Carl Sagan said, used to be inside of a star. We are all star stuff. I suspect that at unknown points of math and connection that science hasn't discovered yet, there are fields that bind us together. All the atoms in my body, all the atoms in your body, all the atoms in the cameras and the screens that we're talking to. Everything in the universe. And I think occasionally some of those connections filter through and someone is able to discern a direction out of it.
Did you ever tell him afterwards? Let me back up a second. Do you think that book may have saved your life? Or his visit?
No.
No.
It started the process of saving my life.
The reason I ask you that, Blair, is because I did another podcast a couple of weeks ago with a follower on IG, Instagram. He had told me he had the chain around his neck, standing on a chair, about to kick the chair and hang himself. Out of the blue, knock on the door, a friend he hasn't seen in years shows up and says, "What the fuck are you doing? What's going on here?" Talked him off the ledge.
Yeah.
So my question is that you had pretty much the same experience. Basically, this guy comes out of nowhere. Why is it that you, Donald, have that type of experience and some of the people miss that experience and just actually go through with it and they take themselves out? Scratching your head like it's unexplainable, or do you have an explanation for it?
I have an explanation. No, I have a theory because I don't know.
Right.
My theory is, like I said, we're all connected. On top of that, in my previous career, I owned a recording studio. And the majority of my work was recording many of the world's greatest spiritual teachers, every religion, every philosophy, every culture. And no matter what religion, what culture, they all talked about a connection. And the thing that made that connection real was actually paying attention, being sensitive enough to be aware of it. It's frequently called awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And I think because I had imbibed so much of that information through 18 years of recording 50 or more spiritual teachers, I had made myself available for those possibilities. I don't want to get all woo-woo here. I just think that there are connections that we are unaware of.
I agree.
And I think I was fortunate enough because I got to spend so much time with so many very religious, dare I say, holy people
Mm-hmm.
or sacred people from all over the world, all the different religions. Maybe some of their dust, rubbed off on me. Maybe,
Why? Go ahead.
maybe I was just a bit more open to possibilities so that when the universe knocked on my door,
Mm-hmm.
I could hear that knocking. I believe the universe is knocking on everyone's door. I believe most of us never hear it. We're too caught up in our own stories in our own brain.
Yeah. As you're saying this, I remember you sharing with me some of those details. It takes me back to that whole period of my life experience. And you said something earlier that I never forgot. Two things. I mean, you said a couple things. You had said that I don't know how many pairs of shoes you went through. You told me you just blew through pairs of shoes because you walked so damn much. So walking became your therapy.
Yeah.
How many pairs of shoes did you go through?
In the summer of 2009, 4 pairs.
4 pairs of summer.
Yeah, one summer. Yeah.
You put
Cement I mean, holes all the way through them, into the footing. So, yeah.
And then you said to me, God draws straight with crooked lines. I'll never forget that. Fuck, you told me to God, this as bad as I was, as shitty as I felt, something those words resonated with me and said, okay, he just told me, this is coming from a guy who was contemplating driving his car up a cliff. He knows my pain. He's speaking my language. And then he tells me, God draws straight with crooked. You remember telling me that or no? Probably not. You do remember?
Oh, yeah. I use that saying frequently in the classes that I teach and actually at the trade school that I teach at.
Yeah.
I've added on to it. God draws straight in crooked lines in all directions all the time. That's the complete statement.
Why do you think you were
all the religions have the same saying? They just put it in slightly different words.
different ways? Yeah, right. Why were you depressed? Do you know it today? Why? Because somebody's listening. There's somebody listening right now to this, and they're saying, "Shit, I can relate to these guys. Am where they were." So what you and I are talking about right now needs to be spoken about. First of all, secondly, I want to add value to people listening right now who are thinking about, well, I'm there. I'm right there. They came across this podcast like the guy came up on while you were on the tractor, like the guy walked in the door for Donald when he's on the chair with the chain around his neck. When I saw your card at the frozen yogurt shop, this could be that moment for them. So why, what are you telling them right now as far as how do they get through this?
Well, 2 questions there. Why or how? Which question do you want answered?
Well, let's go with why you think you were depressed and then how they can get out of it. Some tips of what triggered your depression.
There is a term in philosophy and in all the religions called attachments. Another word for it would be identification or personalization. I had identified, I defined who I was
By what you
by my marriage and by my career.
Yeah.
And in the middle of 2008, I started to get hints that there was problems in my marriage. And then in 2009, the Great Recession, I'm not sure why they called it great. It wasn't great, but the Great Recession started and my business collapsed. And when my identity is built upon my role as a husband,
Mhm.
my role as the, provider, and my role as a record producer, because I owned a recording studio, and both of those things get taken away from me by events outside of my control, it was really, well, at that point in my life, it was impossible for me not to take that personally. So my marriage collapsing did not make me depressed. Doesn't have that kind of power. The economy collapsing did not make me depressed. The economy doesn't have that kind of power. Me tying who I am to those ideas, idea of marriage, idea of record producer. That idea collapsing, remember, suffering is mentally induced. That idea collapsing is what triggered my depression.
Right. And
And
that's
then
when you go ahead.
in all of my manliness, I thought I can beat this. And so I didn't seek help.
Mhm.
I can beat this. I'm stronger than this. Yeah, I wasn't. I wasn't. And I didn't seek help. And my business paid for that. And more importantly, my family paid for that.
Yeah. So I guess you would tell somebody right now listening, there's a lesson right there. Get help. Seek help, because right now I think people are hesitant. I mean, I heard an ad the other day for betterhelp.com that 6 million men a year suffer from depression and only a small fraction ever reach out for help.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a lesson there. Whoever is listening,
Guys, you are not wimpy if you get a therapist. You are not a baby. You are not weak. You're actually really courageous because you realize you're at the end of your rope and you know there is more rope. You just can't reach it without the help of someone else.
well put.
It helps.
Well put. And that story resonates with me because I was so attached to my profession and the validation that I got from doing those shows all over the country and traveling and the money and all that shit. And then when that started coming down, coming unraveled, I came unglued, literally, because I was like you, I didn't realize the bubble that I had created.
Yeah.
And when that bubble burst, I went with it.
You
So
are
now, yeah, I understand 100%. And my slogan now is contentment without attachment. I have that everywhere. It's embedded in my brain.
Yeah.
So it, you got help. You started seeking help at one point. But wait, but you didn't get help right away though.
No, it took me 14 months.
I'm saying, right.
Yeah, it took me 14 months. And the thing that finally kicked me over the edge was my wife said, if you don't get help, I'm leaving you. And so that afternoon, I started interviewing therapists.
Mm-hmm.
And I interviewed 5 different therapists. And then, being the big, strong man that I am, I'm 40 years old or 41 at that point, big, big, tough guy. And I chose a 28-year-old female. I got to have somebody I'm bigger than, I'm stronger than.
Sure.
And And that was those divine threads, those divine fields I was talking about earlier.
Mhm.
Because she flat out told me in our third session, she says, "I'm not the right person for you. You're a bigger personality than I am." She said, "I'm starting to look around to refer you to another therapist." In our fourth session, she says, "I am definitely referring you. I haven't picked the right person yet." In our fifth session, she says, "You need to go see this guy. We're
Just like
done.
that.
Yeah, we're done. You need somebody that is bigger than you."
Yeah.
Not physically. I'm not a very no man. Emotionally, charismatically bigger than me.
Yeah. And did she I'm trying to go back then. I know one of them prescribed you the drugs. Was it Paxil? Whatever they prescribed you, and you
Yeah.
were taking that, you said you're right, antidepressants, and you got a little bit of relief, 'cause I was talking to you about that. I'm saying, "I got all these damn drugs, I'm not getting any relief." And they were giving you a little bit of relief to the point where you could actually slow the brain down a little bit and start thinking a little more clearly. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's a pretty good way to put it. Yeah. They took the edge off.
Mhm.
They took the edge off the depression, so it wasn't my thinking wasn't quite so fuzzy, and I could start to identify reality versus what I think reality should be.
Mhm.
Because I kept resisting reality, trying to make reality the way I think it should be, and therein lies the problem. That is one of those fights that you will only lose about 100% of the time.
Man.
You can't fight reality.
Right.
And the Paxil took just an edge off, just enough of an edge off that I could see, wait a minute, wow, I am really screwed up here.
Mhm.
And I was only on Paxil for 4 months. I feel thankful for that. Um, However, if I needed to be on it longer, I would have. I'm a big fan. I think there's going to be better methods in future than antidepressants, anti-anxieties. That's the best we have right now, though. So let's use it. And
Sure.
talk therapy became a lot more useful once I stopped yelling and hollering, screaming about the depression and started talking about the issues underneath the depression.
Right.
And the Paxil took the edge off so I could talk about the issues underneath.
And are you and what the wife did leave. She eventually did leave, correct?
Yeah, the irony is she said, "If you don't get help, I'm leaving." I said, "I got help." And 5 days later, she said, "I'm leaving anyway." Uh, and a couple months later, she moved out. Yeah.
Okay, so this is a good stopping point because here you are doing what she asked you to do, and you were fucked up by the marriage, the fact that the marriage is getting spiraling out of control anyway. So then you get help, you take in the Paxil, and then she still decides to leave. Did you not start spiraling, backsliding after she said, "I'm leaving"? Did it not intensify that depression?
Um, Initially, yes, because I was still tied up in my thoughts that my identity is my role as a husband, as a caregiver. And as I continued with my therapist and then also with one of the spiritual teachers who's now a very good friend of mine and I call him my mentor, working with them, and I started to see this distorted thinking I had, thinking that I am defined by this role of husband or record producer or caregiver or, you know, 750 a credit score. That was my definition.
Mhm.
And so the universe said, "Okay, well, it looks like you need a bit more pressure. Let's go ahead and take away one of those roles." And my wife, God bless her, she left.
Did that increase suicide again?
No, no,
I didn't.
no.
Do you think it's
Well, I
because
fought
of
it for a
that?
couple weeks and then I realized, wait a minute, this just is. I cannot change this, so why keep fighting it? It takes two people to get married. It only takes one person to get divorced.
Yeah,
One
true.
person's done, they're done.
Right.
And at some point or another, I finally I finally understood that. I am fighting against something I cannot win this fight. So why waste the energy? There are
Do you think
more
that
important things for me to expend my energy on.
do you think that Paxil at that point, if you weren't on the antidepressants, because somebody's listening right now, and I'm saying this because I'm sharing with you real life, I'm sharing with you real life experiences. I went and had these cards made up the other day, and the graphic designer who made this card for me flat out said he saw I'm sharing my mission with him and my purpose. He said, "Man, that is awesome." He goes, "That is give you big props for doing that." He goes, "I remember when my wife left me, the stress was so bad. I got hives all over my body. I was stressed out. I have another guy who DMs me on social media and says his wife left him. He's a fucking wreck." So w that's why I'm asking you, because there's people listening right now who are in that situation, and the advice you're gonna share with them is what? Because they're feeling out of control because that person's walking out of their life.
With a non-personal listener, therapist, priest, pastor, religious leader, doesn't matter. Somebody who is not personally involved in telling you what they think you want to hear. Somebody who will tell you the truth, no matter how much it hurts. Start looking at yourself. So when the 28-year-old referred me, I walked into the guy's office. He was physically bigger than me, and charismatically, he was bigger than me. And I swear, as I was walking into his office the next week, I swear he was strapping on steel-toed boots. I'm sure he wasn't. It's just what, remember, distorted thinking. And he kicked the shit out of me. And then I found out he was an Episcopal priest.
Wow.
And he kicked the bejesus out of me.
And you needed at that
Not
time.
let me get away with any blaming.
Right. He held you accountable.
He held me accountable. He said, "Listen, Blair, I hear you blaming your wife for all this stuff. You know what? She's not here. It's not her stuff. This is your stuff. So you talk about you. If she wants to see me, she can come see me." And that hurt.
What's your that woke your ass up, I bet, huh?
It hurt. It woke my ass up, and it hurt. Because that means I had to look at my responsibility in our marriage collapsing. In spite of everything saying I have every reason to blame her,
Mhm.
he forced me to look at me. He said, "Blair, you know what? She is no more than 50% of the problem. She can't be more than 50% of the problem.
Right.
So you are the other 50%. So you better figure out you."
And you did. You did. You started figuring out you, where some people don't. They say, "Fuck, I'm out. I'm done. I don't care. I want out." So there's something within you that kept fighting to figure out you, the drive within you to figure out yourself. So how do you inspire somebody right now listening? Listen, man, person, whoever you are, start working on you. Easier said, sounds simple, not always easy. What was the first
Yeah.
step you took and figure what was the first step you took and figure out who Blair Ashby is?
The first, I don't know if there was a first step. There was several kind of compound steps. One of the most important steps for me,
The next question, the big one, yeah, the big step. What was it?
one of the most important steps was I started meditating every morning.
I love that.
Meditation is not for everybody. It worked for me. It worked really well for me. And I started meditating every morning for 20 minutes, and then I would go for an hour walk every afternoon. And in that meditation, I began to notice how flippin' crazy my brain was. It's like the 1905 San Francisco earthquake was more organized than my brain is. It was like storms have more organization than my brain did. That's what it felt like. And as I kept watching this, and at first fighting to control it, fighting to organize it, and constantly failing.
Right.
At a certain point, several months into my meditation, I finally asked the important question: who's watching? Who is noticing how crazy your brain is? And that was the first hint I got that there was something beyond my ego. I hate to use the word ego. I don't use it in my classes because nobody knows what it really means.
Okay, well, tell us what's your definition of ego while you're on the subject, and we'll get back to
Well,
what you're saying.
I don't use the word ego. I use the word survival brain. It's the limbic system in the center of our brain. And it's in charge of keeping us not dead. That's its only job. It doesn't care if we're happy or sad. It just wants to be not dead. And we identify with it's in charge of our emotions. And we identify those emotions as us. And I had to learn that I am not how I feel. I am not what I think. I am something beyond those things. What I am, I don't know. Ask the religions that. That's a religion class down the hall. I don't answer those questions. I don't really care, to be honest.
Mhm.
There are people that do, though, so ask them.
Right.
I just know everything that I had learned, they were not me. They were just things I had learned. And that rarely was I, Blair, actually present to make decisions. Most of the time, my survival brain or my ego was making decisions based on past experiences. If it did not kill me in the past, let's use it again. Who cares if it works, like makes us happy or not? We're not dead. That's all that's important. And it was learning to realize that my thoughts and emotions wrapped around my identity, my attachments, they did not care if I had meaning or satisfaction in my life. They cared that they felt not dead. And learning to detach myself from those and realize I am this bigger picture over the top. Whatever I am. Now, philosophy has been debating what I am for 10,000 years, and I doubt I'm going to answer it in this podcast.
Sure, right.
Whatever I am, that conscious stream of me in this moment now, this present moment, not that moment that just passed, now. I mean, not that one, this one, now. That one is rarely making decisions. At least back then. Now I try to keep it fully engaged as much as possible, 85, 90, 95% of the time. I try to stay present. And that's the secret, is staying present. So for me, the compound steps were meditation, learning to recognize how crazy my brain was and detach myself from that craziness. Not stop the craziness, not resist the craziness, detach from it. Just
Mm.
notice it is happening. And then walks in the afternoon. And I noticed that if I walked for 20 to 30 minutes, my brain started to grow quiet. And at about 40 to 45 minutes, my brain would grow almost still. And it was only a few years later, I was listening to a psychologist professor from London University, I think it was Dr. White, who said, emotion, energy in motion.
Mhm.
So if you're feeling a lot of emotion, do something physical to burn off that energy so it doesn't feed thoughts. And you give your subconscious mind time to process all the data, not just the most easily accessible data.
No, that's well said. What is your me you still meditating to this day, correct?
To this day.
I won't give it up. I won't give it up. I will not stop meditating. It's like brushing my teeth, taking a pill. It's just I'm gonna do every dig. I can't leave the house until I do some meditation. What's your meditation look like today?
Today I did half of what's called centering prayer, which is a Christian type of meditation developed in the 14th century, which is where you just choose a sacred word and you use that word as kind of a tether to hold you to being present. And then when your brain grows still, which happens every so often for a second or two, you stop. The word's not a mantra, it's just a tether. And then as soon as your brain starts thinking of something, you go back to that sacred word. And I did that for 10 minutes. And then for 10 more minutes, I did what's called conscious awareness, where I just sat there with my eyes open and just watched the room happening. Actually, I laid there. I don't meditate in any funny position. I like to lay in bed.
Mm.
Um, so I laid, on my covers on top, and I just looked at the ceiling fan. And as soon as my brain started thinking about something, oh, it's thinking back to looking at the ceiling fan. Oh, it's thinking back to the ceiling fan, back to that's all meditation. It's the brain gym of recognizing when you lose presence and then bringing your brain back to being presence. That's all meditation is.
Doesn't it sound like transcendental meditation when they have that you said it's not a mantra, but it is a word, and transcendental meditation is similar to that from what I understand, correct?
All meditations are, yeah. TNM is very similar to that. They have a mantra that you just repeat it. The mantra is given to you by whoever your teacher is, and you just repeat that for 20, 30, or 40 minutes. And your brain loses presence because it's really boring. Gosh, it's boring. And that's the point. When your brain wants to think about something else, you notice your brain has left its chosen point of focus and you bring it back to your chosen point of focus. In TNM, it's the word. Conscious awareness, it's whatever you choose to focus on. Centering prayer, it's the sacred word. In Orthodox Christianity, it's the candle flame or the icon on the wall. In Buddhism, it could be just wishing goodness upon the whole world. It could be just watching your thoughts. All of the different religions, I mean, the dervishes in Sufi religion, they just spin in circles. And when they stop thinking about that, they go back to thinking about that. That's their meditation. It's
Yeah.
just something that you intentionally choose to focus on for a set amount of time.
I can honestly say, Blair, as I'm listening to you, that meditation saved my life, and that's no joke. At first, I hated it. I couldn't sit
Yes.
still. Wanted to get up. Like you said, your brain was out of control.
Yeah.
I understand that, but now at this point, this is a new brain. When I met you, I didn't have this brain. It's been rewired, neuroplasticity, neurons. It's all true. I firmly believe that there's not a doctor on this planet that can tell me anything otherwise. That's a fact for me. So, right? I mean, let's
Yeah.
talk about this for a second. I know your time is a little limited, but I want to ask you this because there are people listening saying, "Well, his brain's out of control." What was he thinking? Like, give us some ideas. What was when you say out of control, the earthquake and the storms and all that. What was going through your brain?
It could have been anything. I didn't get the check I needed today to pay my credit card bill. I didn't, it's going to snow soon. I got to get snow towers. It could have been anything. It doesn't matter. Just life. How do I pay for my daughter's college? How do I pay for my son's high school fees? It could have been anything.
Right. Well, was it self-sabotage, like you're worthless, you're hopeless, you don't you fucked up the marriage? I mean, that any of that?
I didn't wrestle with that very much. Apparently, a lot of people do. A lot of my
Right, that's
clients
why I asked.
say they do. I didn't wrestle with that much. my brain is more of a fighter, so it wanted to blame my wife, and it took a long time to let go of that and realize that, wait a minute, I'm 50% of the problem. I can't I don't wanna be blaming her. Let's deal with my stuff. After I deal with my stuff, then I'll figure out how to blame her. I haven't dealt with my I'm still dealing with I mean, I still meditate. I have for 16, almost 17 years now, and my brain is still crazy.
Literally.
That's the important part to know. It is still flipping crazy up there. I mean, this morning I'm doing my meditation and it was only slightly louder than a Broncos stadium in a big game. It's crazy. It's not me.
Mhm.
It's just my brain. And I tell my students this. I said, it's like you're in a busy, really busy, noisy restaurant. You can hear constant noise. It's deafening. It's so loud in there. A lawnmower would be quieter. And yet somehow you can have a conversation with the person across the table with you.
Yeah.
That's a meditation
Mhm.
because it's intentional focus.
When you say your brain is still crazy, okay, so all right, well said. Now, are you suffering, experiencing any type of depression at all?
No, no.
Never. No.
I have a bad mood occasionally.
Sure, but no depression.
No, unless I eat gluten. If I eat gluten, I feel depression for 2 days after that. I'm gluten sensitive.
There you go, people.
Yeah, that's that's the chronic side of things, the chemical side of things. That's just the biomechanical suit I'm wearing.
Right.
Can't help that.
Yeah.
So outside of that, no. Because now I realize when I feel something,
Mhm.
first of all, you probably notice that I don't say I'm depressed. I say I feel
Right.
depressed.
Feel depressed.
That's
Right.
part of my separation is learning how to separate who I am from how my meat suit feels.
Sure.
And when I am feeling something, it's just, okay, look at that. I'm feeling happy right now. Oh, look at that. I'm feeling angry right now. Oh, I'm feeling anxiety. I feel like punching him in the nose. Okay. It's just what I feel.
That's what what you just said, it brought up another memory. You would say, "Oh, isn't that interesting?" You taught me that when I was going through my depression. You said, "Oh, it's just a thought." You kinda look at it like, "Oh." You just kinda look at it, and you said that, when you said that just now, it took me back to he's the one that taught you, like, "Oh, Blair, I'm thinking about blowing the fucking brains out the side of my head right now." You're like, "Oh, isn't that interesting? You're having thoughts of suicide." You said that to me. I'm like, "Wow, I guess that's right." He's right because it's just look now I use the analogy of being a lifeguard at the beach on your life tower. You're looking out the waves, and instead of getting caught up in those waves, the undertow and the undercurrent, you kinda look at it and say, "Oh, look at there. There's a wave of anxiety. Oh, look at that thought coming in. I'm not attached to it
Yeah,
anymore, though." See?
exactly.
Thank
Yes.
you, Blair.
You're welcome. That my mentor, Tony, taught me that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's pretty
he's a
cool.
Jesuit priest in Mumbai, India, and he taught me that.
He did.
Yeah.
I love it. It's separation. It's not getting caught up. It's
Right.
understanding because when
It's
you're
just
attached to
something my
something
meat suit feels.
yeah, you're attached to something, it's gonna when you're attached to anything, it can take you away. So, before we wrap this up, you said 2 things I wanna get back to real quick. So, would do you think that when you were in your heyday and you had the business, you had a recording studio, and I relate to this very well, do you consider yourself looking back, now where you are, do you think you were ever high functioning depression? Not you, but do you think you experienced high functioning depression?
I don't think so. Um, I was no, I don't think so. The recording studio was really fun for 20 years.
Yeah.
Met lots of great people. I got nominated for 3 Grammys. I won an Emmy Award. I won a Dove Award. It was fun. And then all of a sudden it wasn't fun. And it was just, I had identified with that fun as me and realizing that fun's not me. That fun was just something that was going on.
Was it not fun when it took a dump, or was it not fun before it took a dump? Because you said the economy shut your business down. Before
It
that
started The not fun started about 2007.
Before the
And in
depression.
2009 is when I was suffering from depression.
Okay, so you remember that.
Yeah, yeah. I still remember, yeah, yeah. I remember
Yeah.
set times when I recognized, "Oh, industry is changing, and I don't really wanna change with it.
Mhm.
Okay, this is not so fun anymore. What now?"
Yeah,
Yeah.
I get it. I relate to that because when I was doing those cooking shows all over the country, running the country, had the motor coaches and, seeing a lot of different places and going on these big incentive cruises. And then there was a peak. It was a blast. Then I noticed, wait a minute, I'm driving a quarter million miles around the country, chasing these shows, setting up. It's the same thing everywhere I go. I'm starting to feel like the novelty, the flavor of it's starting to wear off on this. But I would drink it away. I'd pour those
Right.
Buffalo Trace, yeah, I'd drink it away, shop it away, eat it up, go nice restaurants and travel and more, more, and more, buy more shit, do more things. And then it came to a point that coping technique no longer worked. And
Right.
when that fell apart, I went with it like you're talking about here. Your identity was my identity, our identity was attached to what we do. And one of my final questions here, why can some people live that lifestyle, whereas you and I, we we felt the attachment waning, said, "Wait a minute, this is not I can't do this any longer." Why can some people keep doing that, living that lifestyle? How do they do that?
Well, I mean, obviously, I don't really know why because I'm not in anybody else's head. It
Sure.
it seems to me that, if you think back to when you were really suffering from depression, you couldn't see any other way, could you?
Not at all.
The more emotion we feel, the tighter the blinders on us become. Our brain puts blinders on us and focuses on just relieving the emotion. Face it, people, you don't want happiness, you just want relief.
Mhm.
Focuses on relieving the emotion, the next high, the next whatever, and it just keeps trying. And it keeps working. And at a certain point, it doesn't work. But the brain's natural survival mode is fight, flight, or freeze to negative stimulus. So if one of them doesn't work, it tries something else. If fighting it doesn't work, it hides and drink. If drinking doesn't work, it runs away to this, or it just keeps trying these things because the limbic system part of our brain has no capacity for logical thought. We have to engage our frontal cortex for logical thought. That means we have to bring ourselves to being present here now, not caught up in what happened in the past or what's going to happen in the future. Here now.
Yeah.
One of my mentors, Father Thomas Keating, Catholic, I'm not Catholic, but he was a Catholic priest that spent a lot of time with me. He said, the past is regrets and shame. The future is anxiety. The only moment for joy is now.
I know.
And being present is the only time that we can ever find a way through this beyond the survival mode recognition, the survival mode modes, of fight, flight, freeze, grab, and hold. And I think that there's probably some people stronger than me. They can
Mm.
fight longer. There's other people, they just don't know what else to do. I just know that in my case, I just realized this is not working. I have got to do something else. I've got to try something else.
Your students, mostly men or women, is a split?
No, I would say 85 to 90% women.
That leads me right to my next question. You probably know what it is. Why why aren't guys with 6 million men in this country right now suffering from depression, why aren't more men like you and I talking about it?
Because I'm big enough and tough enough. I can beat it. It's what the man in me did for 14 months. I teach at a trade school. 99% of my students are men, are 20-something-year-old men. They're tough enough. They're brave enough. They can beat it. Sometimes we have to learn we can't beat it. And we have to be beat up enough times to realize we can't beat it. We men can be really thick-headed sometimes.
I I think that there's, and I never experienced that personally. When I reached out to you, I don't care. I would talk to anybody about it because I just wanted it to end. I wanted answers.
Yeah.
There was no shame in me to talk. I came right to you. I called you. Hey man, listen, I'm having some problems. No hesitation. Like I didn't get your card to hold on to it for 2 days or 3 days. No, I called your ass right away. I called you right away and I talked to everybody I could possibly talk to because I wanted this thing to end. I guess I am by default, by nature, a very solution oriented person. Like I want it done. And that was to a fault because impatience worked against me a lot of times. I wanted it gone right away. Like this is, I can't deal with this anymore. And it lasted 5 years, the worst 5 years of my entire life,
Yeah.
you know?
Ironically, I just sent out a newsletter. I sent out a monthly newsletter, and, I just sent it out a couple days ago. It goes out on the 7th of each month, and, it was about patience. And one of the hard parts to realize about patience is that patience is not necessary. Patience is a component of acceptance. And so learning to accept reality as it is, patience is a consequence of that.
Interesting.
And
You're-
yeah, learning it's changing the rules. You don't have to be patient. Just accept. Notice what your brain is doing and then accept what it does, even when it doesn't work. And learn from it and improve. Learn from it and improve.
what's the best part about being you as I wrap this thing up? What's the best part about being Blair Ashby? What do you love about yourself, Blair?
I love how my goal is to explain this psychological, spiritual message of self compassion to people in ways that they can understand, not in foofy ways or anything like that, in real language that people can understand.
Hmm.
And I love how I'm actually pretty good. I feel like my clients tell me I am. I hope I am. Um, Pretty good at putting it into basic words that anybody in any belief system can get it so that they can then do the work to make their life better.
And perfect way to wrap this up. How can they find you? Because there's people listening right now that want to reach out to you. They want to know who you are. They want your services. How can they find you?
Selfcompassionateliving.com.
There it is right there. Is it self hyphen compassionate living or no?
It could be either one,
Okay.
hyphen or no hyphen. It's spelled, my preferred way is hyphen, of course. However, it could be either one.
Okay. And
Selfcompassionateliving.com.
do you have some courses coming up?
Um, I actually have a creating self-compassion class. I'm going to try to teach one in the summer. Usually things shut down in the summertime because people are on vacation and stuff. I'm going to try
Right.
one and see what happens. I may only have 6 people in it. Cool. It's fine with me. I don't care. That starts. So it's got it on my website. I think it's the first Saturday in July.
Okay.
And then this coming Saturday and 3 days from now, 2 days from now, June 14th, and then again on June 28th, I hold a bi-weekly self-compassion discussion and inspiration group where anybody can come in. The register form is, on the website. You can just sign up and show up. You don't have to sign up for 10 classes or anything like that. Just sign up for one class.
Which I highly
It's
encourage.
a class. It's a group discussion. It's
Great.
where we share. People learn together.
A community of people.
A community.
And that's what they need. And I'm glad you were on the podcast because I can honestly look in this camera and tell you guys, reach out to Blair because he was very instrumental in the early stages of my depression, and my experience with depression is actually help me understand it, deal with it. And now I'm completely on the other side of it. So I really appreciate you, bud. I really do. It means a lot. And I hope
You're
people can
welcome.
find out.
I want to
Yeah.
honor your gratitude. You're welcome. And I want to say thank you for the compliment.
Yeah, but it's very sincere, it's heartfelt, and it's the truth. I wouldn't have brought you back on here all these years later if it wasn't the truth. You always remember the instrumental people in the beginning. They got you
Yeah.
through it. I
Yeah.
called you a couple times. You got right back with me. So this man's legit. Reach out to him. He knows what he's talking about. Been there. He's walked it. He's walked it. So I appreciate you, bud. Thank you for your time. Get back to doing what you got to do. I know. Yeah, man. I know you have a big to-do list going on right there. So hey, listen, we'll pop you back on in the future when you got some more time and insight to share your wealth of knowledge. So we'll look forward to having you next time again.
Very good. I look forward to it. May you have yourself a good afternoon.
Have a great one. Talk to you later, buddy.
Bye-bye.
See you guys. Be fucking bold.
Bye.